What do you do during gameplay if you realize someone is drifting off or losing focus or not really into it? Like if you're in the middle of a game and you notice that happening.
That can be tough. I like to have a couple hooks planned out for each session, which is like, and then the inn catches on fire kind of things that are definitely like attention grabbing to generally people sitting around in a room who are here to play D&D.
Yeah.
Like if you're here to participate in the game and you're interested in what's going on, I try and have a couple things that are like, and then the princess walked in. Whoa, where I can just say that much and it immediately makes people start doing and looking at their sheet and trying to figure things out. If someone is like consistent, like I've thrown both of my hooks out and they're just still staring at their phone and playing with it.
Yeah.
It's really hard to not just let if this is the only time they've done it, they're going to get a free pass.
Okay.
It's going to like, okay, this happens to people sometimes. If they are consistently doing that, like session by session, we're at session 3, 4, and they're still doing it, that's when it's going to start to be like, hey, I don't think that this is the right game for you.
Yeah.
I am looking at you, not the camera. It's fine. I don't care. Don't give me that. Don't give me that. I would also say that identifying why they're bored would be a big part of the problem too.
All right.
One thing I made a note of was trying to identify what it is that interests each of your players. If you can even make a note for like the type of thing that was going on the last time you saw them perk up and be interested in the game, you're kind of looking to fill each player's name with like one moment when they were interested in the game. You can kind of go back to those type of things to try and get that person interested again. And avoid what they find not interesting. If they do that every time there's a puzzle, okay, they're doing it because it's a puzzle. But if someone's just, if you try all these different things and it's still not sticking, you have enough other people at the table to try to entertain. I would try and start pushing that person out.
Yeah. And what do you do as a DM with the person who loves the combat and rolling and stuff like that, but anytime it's time for actual role play, they just kind of aren't really into it and aren't really participating?
So I think it's hard to separate that, and even though they're often going to be the same, separate that from in character having an orc barbarian in your party. They don't want to negotiate. They don't want to try and use magic. They don't want to try and solve the puzzles. They're an orc, barbarian. They want to try and run in and kill everything and then, have a feast and talk about how great the killing was. And I think that that's okay. I think that that's more for the players to try and push that character to not resolve everything through violence.
Right.
As a player, if they are totally uninterested, then they are going to start kind of sapping the room of energy. I would try and find something connected to their character. A lot of times those kind of characters are driven to be better in combat, so you can try to maybe get them to roleplay for items or powers that would make them better at combat, and then they'll be like, oh, I really want that sword.
And
maybe I will do the roleplay.
Another question. As a DM, what do you do when you notice that your entire party is starting to just have trouble role-playing? Having trouble, like, feeling not awkward and openly, like, role-playing their characters? What do you do when they're having problems doing that?
So, one fix that is, like, around for that is to try and roleplay yourself, like do voices and wear costumes and stuff like that to get your players into it. But a problem with that is you can kind of overwhelm people. Sometimes they'll be like, oh shit, I'm expected to perform. I can't do that. And they shut down. It's hard. You need to know what their regular level of engagement with roleplay is, whether that's something that like this group even likes to do. If you only have one person in your group who wants to like really roleplay hard, then that's going to kind of be rough. You know, you're going to have to tell them as a player, like, look, Murmur has to drink all the water right now. You're going to have to tell them as a player, like, look, you're the only one who's really interested in the roleplay, so we're going to have to do a lot of that, like, right at the start of sessions. People are still messing with their character sheet and stuff like that, because it's going to be a lot of combat during the game. If the whole group just isn't into it, they've never been into it, they express no interest in being into it in the future, then this whole campaign is about to change. Because at the end of the day, I want to have fun with my players too. So even though I brought a campaign that I've run 3 times before, I'm not doing that because I want to run the same campaign again. I'm doing it because it's a world I'm super familiar with. So if you guys go completely off the path, I can stick with you. So if you guys are just like, all we give a shit about is killing, then it's like, you guys find a pirate ship. Mm-hmm. Now I'm just going to pull you guys to, oh, you know what? You overheard that this war is going on. I'm going to pull you into a campaign that involves primarily fighting, that's happening in the same world that I've kind of already got going. So that way we're both happy.
All right. And I think my final question is, now what do you do with the person, you know, who is trying to answer every question and talk to every NPC that talks to the group before anyone else can, and is trying to do all of their spells the second they're in a new place, and, like, you know, completely kind of drowning out the other players and not really giving them a chance?
So if someone is like super, you know, Captain Solo like that, they're going to pull themselves away from the group pretty often in order to go do their cool shit and show everyone how cool they are. So you start making a lot of things happen when they're not around. Like when they've made it to the other side of the pit is when the NPC the characters have all been hanging out with kind of comes out from behind the rest of the group to be like, oh, hey, let me give you some special tools to help you get over pits like this in the future. Gives them to everyone but that player.
Yeah.
You don't need it. You're already over there. But then this brings up another question, which is, does this person figure out what I'm doing? Do they figure out that every time they peel off from the group, good things happen to the group and they kind of get like shafted and they start playing with the group? Or do they just get mad? Because if they just get mad and go home, mission accomplished. I got rid of someone who had no interest in playing with you guys. They just wanted to play their own game. They wanted to play Skyrim. And I'm not here to facilitate you playing Skyrim. I'm here to play D&D. And if they do take the hint, like, oh, I get it. Okay, yeah. Every time I leave is when some crazy shit goes down where they could actually use my powers.
Yeah.
And then you as the DM are like, well, maybe you should try staying around the group for a little more often, or maybe not being the first motherfucker to jump out there. They're either going to be insulted by that and get all offended, or they're going to be like, ah, okay. And so I would try and handle it through just subtly pushing, like, the best thing to do is to stay as a team. When you go out alone, you get punished. Not punished like spanked, but like, yeah, but like you get hurt more. You take a few more arrows because you're on your own. You know, you don't have your knight blocking for you. What's difficult though is a lot of these things, like I said, are like, if they don't get the hint when you try to give them the subtle approach, you're immediately bumping into, oh, this person doesn't want to play regular D&D. Like with a group of people where you're all sitting together trying to solve the same problem that I have set up, they're wanting to create their own world, their own problems, their own issues for the group. They're trying to steal from the group or kill people that are unrelated, and it's like, you gotta leave.
What are some signs they can look out for someone who is incompatible or not really working with their group?
I would say first, they're not even asking any of the other players what they're doing. They're not asking what class anyone is, what your campaign's going to be like. They have already decided the character they're playing before they showed up and heard anything about what was going on. That's a red flag. Oh, you didn't show up to play this game. You showed up to play your character. That might not work. Okay, next is they're not building their character with a group in mind. They're not like, I will use magic from the back. Well, like someone with armor defends us and we have a healer. They're like, I will be an assassin and I will sneak around killing people. What will your group be doing while you're doing that? Like, that's not good. Someone who's talking about like how they're already foreseeing how they're going to go away from the group to do things. Oh, I'm going to start a skeleton army. How are you going to get all the bodies? You're going to have your group kill all the people? Like, how are you going to do this? But people who are already interested in each other's characters or what they can do together, or are already asking questions about the starting area, the starting things they would have known. Are there any major heroes that they're asking about lore, stuff like that. Those are the good signs. Those are like, they want to know about the environment they're going to be in, which means they're going to be receptive to that environment. They're not just trying to impose themselves onto the environment. So looking for the good flags is as important as the red flags, I think, before it comes up, because there aren't enough clear indicators.
Let's say now the DM you're talking to, they're like 15. They can only play with their immediate group of friends. How can they try and make their game better knowing
without,
that,
like, getting rid of anybody?
Yeah.
I think that one thing that has always helped, at least, made people not feel as bad about playing with people they don't want to play with, is at least knowing that the rest of the group sees the behavior too. I know that, like, when the problem player would walk away to go be on the phone or have a smoke or something like that, if we all got to be like, jeez, all they want to do is fight things, or whatever it was, it kind of made us all come together a little bit more. And it made the other people a little more tolerant, because they realized that I'm, as the DM, having to deal with this too. So commiserating with the others about it without trying to turn them all into bullies on one person. Like, you don't like the way someone's role playing, so you throw that out to the group, and now they're all gonna jump in on that person. You kind of have to pick up on other people's, they're getting really frustrated with this person, so I need to let them know that I see it. I see that you guys are getting frustrated about the way they're playing. Then they'll all sigh and agree or whatever. Obviously, talking to the player, sitting them down before the game or after the game and being like, hey, this is what worked, this is what didn't work, can we try this next game? That's a big one. And then designing playpens for them as a DM. Like, I know that I have a joke character who can't stop making everything into a joke. So I'm going to give him a little elf that just follows and laughs and claps at everything they do tonight. But the elf is also going to keep kind of pushing them to get involved in the rest of the group stuff. So that way they constantly have the audience they need for their stupid jokes, and it's me, the DM. I am that elf. they're like, hey, I lean into the elf and I'm like, hey, watch this. And then I make prestidigitation, give him a wedgie. The elf is like, so I get to be the one who hears their dumb joke and then goes, okay, but while the elf is doing that, the goblin is moving towards you and is going to attack. Something to that effect, so that way I can corral the problem player into this section with me. Oh, they're locked in combat while everyone else is role-playing. Oh, they're role-playing with this other idiot NPC I made while everyone else is in combat. I'm trying to just keep them away from the rest of the group so they can all have their fun and this person is not disrupting that. But yeah, if you can't get rid of them, then just at least keeping everyone satiated, keeping everyone happy, keep throwing everyone, at least some time of the type of game they like to play would be fair. So if you've decided to play with this person for one reason or another, and you've decided that you're not getting rid of them, then that would be the fair thing to do in that case, would be to say, they are a part of the table too. This is their game as well. This is how they'd like to play it, is through being goofy. We're going to make it work. And you find a way to make it work. And that is the premise of all of these things, is not just stopping at, hey, wait, that breaks this or that, going, how can we make it work? So that's the big thing to remind you all. How could we make it work?
Don't follow the rules, kids.
I don't know, I follow all the rules.
just
Follow the Dungeon Master's Guide. No, the Dungeon Master's Guide's full of nonsense. Follow the player handbook. That's all I have to say about this shit.